In first grade, I met this kid from my school at the bus stop. I remember interacting once, and the next thing I remember is us playing together at their house. As time passed, our families bonded and we grew to be quite close. I admired the elder brother. I loved the extended family. The street dogs in the lane were absolutely sweet. They even had a beautiful house, and I really enjoyed the food that they made. All of this took place after a single interaction at the bus stop. It didn't take too much or too long to make friends back then. You just had to be standing next to somebody your age, and before you knew it, you made yourself a good friend. At least in my experience. Everything changed though once we moved out. My life changed from having a lot of people to play with every other day to there being absolutely no one to play with. The friendly street dogs in my friend's lane were replaced by street dogs in my lane that used to chase me every single day. All I did then was head to school, survive the punishment of the day, return home only to be worried about the street dogs in my lane, to then somehow reach home only to get beaten up and abused. Those were some of the most painful days and what I believe to be the origins of my loneliness. Good morning to everyone present over here. My name is Tanishq KRISHNAN, and today I'll be sharing with you my struggles with loneliness and my eternal quest to make friends. This is the story of my ordinary life. Back to the main plot. Now, aside from being by myself, for the most part in my early days, my parents were in general emotionally unavailable. Our relationship was of a transactional nature, one in which I got what I wanted had I given them what they wanted. Well, that sounds fair. It wasn't restricted to something like a toy I wanted or reduced playtime. It extended to love. It extended to my emotional needs. The impact, both physical and mental, as a result of being raised in such a manner is of an extremely complex nature and one that I've only recently begun to explore and have treated. The later stages of my teenage life involved me mostly fighting with my parents and teachers. It was also around this time that I'd slowly begun to understand friendships, though I still didn't know exactly how to go about making any. In 11th grade, I had moved to a new school. I was now surrounded by new folks, and I had new school rules to be worried about. I did have experience dealing with new people since the previous school during my time there had shuffled students around twice. As time passed though, my biggest obstacle in making friends was the rat race. You see, scoring low grades did have an effect on my self-esteem, but the other effect it had was that folks tended to keep their distance from me. A behavior that was encouraged both by parents and teachers. Not having many friends and consequently not having much fun resulted in me feeling lonely, and that affected my grades. The affected grades would then cause trouble with my friendships both at school and at tuition. This also resulted in my parents not accepting me, which caused them to drive away potential friends that used to come by our house, leaving me yet again alone, dull, and with a heap of books in front of me. Ashamed and made to feel like an outcast, I developed an intense desire and need to be accepted. By the time I reached college, I decided to direct most of my energy to making as many friends as possible. Initially, I was nervous. I used to constantly worry about what to say next instead of paying attention to what was being said. This resulted in conversations being both boring and taxing, both for myself and the other party. What helped me the most was my sales stint. It forced me to listen to what the other individual had to say, respond appropriately, and have an end goal in mind. This leveled up my conversational skills. Having taken care of the conversational aspect, I still didn't know how to connect and have folks sticking around. That's when I had decided to play a character that used to try to make other people laugh at one's own expense, a character that would stoop to any extent with absolutely no regard for one's self-esteem or self-respect. As time passed, there used to be moments when there was nobody around me, but I used to feel pain within me, and that used to lead me to cry. I didn't know at the time, but it was loneliness. My body was feeling extremely disconnected as a result of constantly playing a character in order to have folks around. And it also left me feeling lonely because the folks that were around were there for the character that I played. They weren't there for who I truly was. This was no fault of theirs. I was trying to fulfill my need for acceptance through this character. But how could I be accepted when playing a character meant that I myself was rejecting who I was? I was insufficient and not worthy. Hence, I had to take the role of this character, right? Well, one day I ended up breaking down and I just laid bare exactly what I was going through to a friend. He listened to me through the entirety of it and addressed some of my concerns, of which one stuck with me. He asked me, why is it not okay to feel lonely? This sounds like a simple enough question, but I had never considered sitting with my feelings of loneliness. So then I decided. I started to sit with my feelings, but as soon as I did, a barrage of suppressed emotions caught up to me at a fantastic speed, leaving me extremely depressed. Basic and simple tasks like brushing my teeth or taking a bath took most of the energy. I wouldn't be able to get out of the bed. My future was like a blank wall. There was nothing to look forward to. There was no potential to be happy. Thankfully, at the time, I had come across vitamin D, and that helped bring a pause to my descent. That, along with therapy, helped alleviate my issues with anxiety and tendency to panic to a great extent. However, I was still left feeling lonely. In fact, loneliness hit with a solid bang. I used to end up crying close to 2 to 3 hours on a daily basis, and there was nothing I could do about it. It was an intense, painful physical sensation that was unavoidable and that would trigger thoughts about mine and my parents' death. Thankfully, at the time, I'd got a lucky break. A user on Reddit had posted a question asking for help with their crippling loneliness. Another user had responded to the post and asked the original poster to join them at a local eatery. One thing led to another, and about 20 odd people showed up, of which I was one. Meeting people who shared a similar interest in socializing, some of whom were lonely themselves, was a breath of fresh air. It made me want to make more of my life. One of the activities that I took up as a result was heading on a solo trip to Madhya Pradesh. It was not easy. My crying spells continued, except this one day I looked into the mirror and I thought back on everything that I'd experienced until that point. Despite depression, suicidal ideations, anxiety, panic, and the series of mental breakdowns caused as a result of loneliness, there was one person that stuck throughout and constantly found ways to help resolve the issues. That person was me. That person, that savior was me. The knowledge that in difficult times that I could rely on myself was a relieving thought, and it ended up eradicating my loneliness to a large extent. Finally, the initiative that had been taken up by the Redditor was picked up by a few folks, including myself. Since March of 2022, under the banner of Tipplers Unite, we have been hosting meetups across Bangalore. The objective has been to gather around folks who feel lonely or are just looking to socialize. This has been an important aspect of my life. I can now safely say that I have a good support network and I'm not short of opportunities to make new friends. Before we end, I have a few points that I'd like to highlight to those that might be able to relate to what I have said until now. 1, identify your unmet emotional needs and its effects. 2, listen to what is being said before responding. This serves as a foundation for a pleasant conversation. 3, playing a character might result in you finding company, but it will leave you feeling hollow and lonely. 4, should you choose to reconnect with yourself, accept and embrace loneliness as an essential step. 5, reach out to a therapist or find a support group if required. 6, put yourself in a different environment, or at least put yourself in a position where you meet people from other walks of life. This will help you gain a fresh perspective of your existing issues. And finally, 7, be vulnerable. Exposing who you truly are enables other people to relate and serves as a basis for potential friendships. Being vulnerable is also accepting of your true self. Friends made as a result are there for who you truly are, and that makes an enormous difference. The human experience is vast, and I'm sure there are areas unique to you that need to be addressed in its own way. I hope from the bottom of my heart that you find something that works for you. Thank you all very much for listening. Wish you all a wonderful day. Take care and much love. Thank you.